Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Citrico Central. I'm George, the Disney Italiano, your host with the most. I got a special guest with me today, my very good friend Jared from Capture the Magic. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. I'm enjoying the beginnings of fall in Florida, to where it's low 80s, and I'm enjoying it as if this was 60 degrees. But I'm doing well, and I hope everybody out there is doing very well also.
I think that's definitely the Florida brand when you say the term fall and 80 degrees in one
Yeah.
sentence.
It's also probably false fall, which always happens where you kind of have this lull where it starts getting cooler, and you're like, oh, here, and then all of a sudden it'll like shoot up to 94, and you're like, oh gosh. But I'm waiting for that. But as of right now, it's like in the evenings, it's hard to complain. I'm enjoying it after the sweltering spring and summer. It's kind of nice to get a little bit of a reprieve there. But thanks for having me on. I always have a good time talking theme parks and everything else that we discuss, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And really quick, if you want to let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
I'm at Captain Magic everywhere. YouTube is my main place for videos. And then if you want Disney World, Universal Studios, Orlando theme park reviews, like in-park tips, you can check out our podcast, my wife and I, at CTM Podcast, where we talk exclusively everything inside the park, strategies, reviews, news, and things like that. That's where you can find me on the internet.
Awesome. And so today I brought Jared on because I wanted to have a conversation with him about a specific topic relating to Universal Orlando, but there's been some other news that came out in the theme park industry also. So I thought we kind of just like bring it all together and capture all the magic, if you will.
That was good.
Thank you.
You're good at the segues. You know, it's not like there's not just news every single day nowadays about theme parks. Like you would assume, I don't know what it was like 20 years ago, but you'd assume like, oh, it's not that exciting of a thing necessarily. Like I swear every day there's just something else that pops up, and there's like, oh, like take your eyes off it for 5 minutes and you missed a bunch of stories.
Absolutely. So the first topic I was going to bring up is actually the one that I originated for us to have a conversation with, and that is the Lost Continent news done in IOA, or Islands of Adventure, for everyone who doesn't use the theme park acronyms, which is actually really funny. Not to go off the subject, but I have noticed, and actually Abby brought it to my attention, every time if I was to go up to a normie and say HHN, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I always assume people knew HHN, but I've noticed that as well. Anytime outside of live streams and videos, I usually just typically say the long name, because I was talking to my brother and I said something about IOA, and he was like, IOA? And I was like, oh, Islands of Adventure. And he's like, oh. And I was like, okay, I forget. But yeah, you get kind of used to the jargon.
Yeah, well, especially because if you use that term down in Florida, people are thinking like, did they change the name from HOA to IOA?
Or they're thinking I-4. Like, what are you talking? Did they change I-4? No, oh, never mind.
Yeah. So in any case, for Islands of Adventure, and right now I do believe it's like 4.9 to 5 acres around-ish of what the Lost Continent is. Now, I'm hearing different things because people are saying that that's excluding Mythos.
So from what I gather, it is, because this kind of originates from the timeline of this is kind of interesting. I don't know if you're going to go over the timeline of it, because the permits kind of got leaked out. There were permits filed. I think it was Project 555, and it was I think it was like 5.5 acres. People mapped it out, and they realized that 5.5 acres was Lost Continent, excluding Mythos. Which I know you and I both feel Mythos. You leave Mythos alone. You don't touch it. You can retheme it if you want, but just everything else, like even the interior. I love the inside of that place, like the way it's like you're eating inside a cave. It's great.
Yeah, that's just it. They could retheme it, change it to a different IP or what have you, but just the restaurant as a whole, don't touch it. Don't alter it. I said it on my last live, I believe, that I said like they better not like gut the interior and turn it into an IKEA restaurant.
I know it's such a unique thing, because it really is like it's a lot of rock work, and it's very echoey in there. Like it's not really quiet, but it's got really tall ceilings, and you feel like you're just eating inside of they hauled out side of a cliff and they just made a restaurant out of it. But yeah, I agree. I hope they don't. I mean, I suppose if they don't change the food, that's a win, but I would love them to keep the overall concept of that place.
Yeah, I agree.
The lamb burger. The lamb burger is amazing.
The lamb burger, the char grilled octopus legs.
Oh, I haven't
And
had that.
those are really good. I think it's on the appetizer,
Okay.
and then the mushroom risotto.
Yes, that is good. They also have I think it's their spinach dip is excellent.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was. But yeah, we ate there like last year right before Halloween Horror Nights, and because you always see the sign that says voted best restaurant, and you're always like whatever. And so we finally went and tried it, and I was like, oh my goodness! Like I actually think it probably is the best sit down in park restaurant. And it's really not that badly priced either for what the quality of the food is.
no, it really isn't. I mean, Abby and I ate there when we went down last summer. Well, not last summer, but this summer that just passed. But every time that I go to Universal, I have to get a reservation at Mythos.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers. It is still open in March when we come down. We'll have to wait.
Like if they close that, I feel like that's going to be one of the first times the Universal fan base turns on them, and it's just like because I will make video after video like, what are you doing? Like, do not touch this place. So I hope even if during construction, I mean, you're gonna have to have walkways because Islands of Adventure is just you got a circle, so you got to leave walkways there. So one would assume the restaurant would be good.
Yeah, so I'm hoping like as far as now, here's the thing, I enjoyed the Lost Continent for what it was. I get it. It's probably like compared to all the other lands that are part of IOA, but I enjoyed the Sinbad stunt show. I enjoyed Poseidon's Fury. I don't know. I know they weren't like the highest ranked, but they put like hundreds of thousands of dollars into maybe even a couple mil, I don't know, into like revamping Poseidon's Fury.
I know. I liked it too. Well, I still like. I love the whole ancient mythos type stuff of the Greek, I guess we call it the mythology. I've always been very interested in that. And so I agree. Yeah, it was really weird because they shut that down to refurb it. It reopened. I don't know what they really did. We went through it when they reopened it, and it seemed like the same show to me. I don't know really what they did. And it was like, 2 months later, they just shut it down, and then nothing since then. It's just been every once in a while the fountain will run where the guy talks with the fountain with the kids. That runs sometimes. It's not even consistent there. But outside of that, it's just restaurants, and it's where you walk through to get the hog's meat.
Now, do you think that they closed it down early because they thought that they would be able to? Because in the very beginning, everyone knew that Zelda was more so the choice pick that was going to go in there. So do you feel like that they closed it down at that particular moment, thinking that they could get Zelda up and running much sooner, but then once the live action movie got delayed and put on hold, everything just kind of just sat still, and then they were in the middle of building Epic Universe, and I think they just decided to say, you know what, maybe Zelda would work more better over at Epic because we're already doing Super Mario, we're already doing Donkey Kong, and basically Lost Continent got basically stagnant because I really don't think that they would have closed Lost Continent just for it to sit there for how many years.
I agree. I still don't know the exact reason. At the time, it was all just like, it's Zelda's coming, and that's been the big rumor there forever. When did they announce that the live action movie was that? Because Sony's making it. I always felt that was a potential wrinkle in the Zelda stuff, was because
I thought it was coming out originally. I thought, now don't quote me, I think it was supposed to come out sometime next year. But they made that announcement like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
And then I think it got pushed back to like 27 or 28 or so.
Yeah. I think it's possible. I've asked some of the people that I know at Universal, and they've said it was always a very fluid thing of nothing. You can hear something today, and by next week, it's like, oh, yeah, that was last week. It's all changed. But that was the thinking. And I agree. It didn't make any sense to shut it down because why shut down something that at least you have, something that could absorb crowds that people, and for the most part, people enjoy Poseidon's Fury. So yeah, that's always been a mystery in terms of that. And from what I have heard is that Zelda is probably going to go into Epic as well. So I don't know if that was always planned or if that became, I know they were wrestling with, did Zelda have enough of an appeal on its own to pull people over? And so maybe they kind of eventually figured out just to put it in Super Nintendo World, perhaps tuck it in there. But yeah, it's always been a mystery as to why and the timing of it. And there's just been nothing in there you just walk, every time we go there, just walk through there and there's just nothing in there.
Yeah. Cause honestly, I can understand if they wanted to close Sinbad sooner, because I feel like the theme park industry right now, unfortunately, did a lot of cutbacks with entertainment. And from what I've understood, that, I mean, it costs a lot of money to keep those shows running, recurring multiple times a day, day after day.
Plus, you got to deal with the unions with those too. They've got actors unions and things.
Yeah. So, but Poseidon's Fury, especially after putting so much money into it, I'm surprised that they at least just didn't keep that open just for the time being. So that's why I think closing that down was a significant notion that they were possibly thinking something new was going to go in there much sooner. Than waiting. But I do agree with you. Now, do you feel like with Zelda, of course, nothing is set in stone. It does seem like they are aiming for Epic. In the very beginning, it did seem like it would fit in Lost Continent because you kind of already have that architectural style of Zelda. But 5 Acres, for me, I feel like Zelda needs to be more grandiose, so to speak.
I agree. And that's the thing about Lost Continent. It's not a big piece of land there. It's already been encroached on when they did Hogsmeade there. And so I always felt like Zelda does fit the motif of that. And I can see totally how you could do Hyrule and all that stuff in there, but you're just not, you basically have room for like one big attraction and a little bit of something else. And that would be it. So maybe that was part of the equation, which is also like, what are they going to do with this space? Because 5 acres is just not a ton. I mean, if you look at most lands, you're probably looking at least 10 acres that you're working with most things. So you have a limited space of whatever they're going to do with this.
So speaking of that, so hypothetically, if they do put it in Epic, do you see Zelda being like connective tissue, so to speak, to already Super Nintendo World, or do you see it standing alone as its own land?
That's a good question. I think we've talked about this before because I think it would have to connect off of Donkey Kong Country is where that extension would go for Super Nintendo World.
Now, there is more land than just the
There is. I guess it depends on if they do it there or if they do its own portal, I suppose. I would assume they would tuck it in, well, I don't know. I would assume they would tuck it in Super Nintendo World because they also have Donkey Kong in there, so it would make sense to kind of make it just all-encompassing Nintendo potentially. But I have heard recently it was between Luigi's Mansion and Zelda, and from the latest I've heard that Zelda did win out. And then you also have the creator of Zelda. He was at Epic during the construction. So even during construction, there's a lot of rumors out there that Zelda was going to come over there because you saw him and Miyamoto. And then in the Super Nintendo shop outside the land, Zelda is all over that place. Not even just merchandise, but like on the walls, on the ceiling. Like it's the only property in there that doesn't have its own space in Epic Universe and part of the land. So I've always felt that was an Easter egg because it's even in the stained glass window, they have Link up there. And I was like, why would you put that there if you're not going to do something with it, considering everybody else on there, is in the park itself?
Do you think regardless of when the movie comes out, do you feel like they're waiting closer till they start production on that? Or do you feel like that Universal's just going to move with it one way or the other? Much sooner than later.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would assume if they're putting it in Super Nintendo World, it's just going to be based off the video game. So it's not going to really look like the live action, but maybe they wait to see how the live action does. But I would assume they were moving. I would assume at least they have their own timetable on it because they do need more stuff in Epic. So it would make sense to start working on that stuff now. But everything I've heard, I don't feel like it's contingent upon that movie. That even if that movie didn't do well, I don't really think that would affect the fans of the video game wanting to see Hyrule. So I guess they could. But if it was me, I would just kind of operate on my own about it and let Sony's thing. And if that does great, then you can obviously use that. That's going to help the popularity of your land. But if it doesn't, you still have the video game end of it where there's still interest there. But
now the other factor of it too is if Universal did want to wait a little bit just to kind of give themselves a little bit of time for the movie to come out, they do have another factor in play. They are considering the possibility of adding Wicked also to Epic Universe.
Yeah.
Where I know a lot of people don't really. I mean, here's the thing. I love the notion of Wicked being in Universal. I just don't know if that is the right choice for an Epic portal. Now, the only reason why I can understand it is they're trying to get the demographic for like the young girls.
Right.
Interest in Epic Universe because of Wicked. It's this hot new thing. The first part came out last year. The second part's going to come out this year. So it's more in currency, so to speak, for them to possibly work on that land before they move to Zelda to kind of give it a little bit of space. But I just don't know if Wicked is high tier class to call it like an epic kind of play.
And I don't even know. So Mark Woodbury made a couple of statements about Wicked, and they asked him, there was a Bank of America conference they had like 2 weeks ago, and they asked him about it, and he kind of seemingly like, he's like, oh, I kind of made a stir the last time I talked about it. He really didn't, like, he's almost backing off of it a little bit. I feel like if you're going to do Wicked, maybe Lost Continent does make sense, potentially, given it's not huge if you're taking a little bit of a risk. And again, I like you said, I get why they would use it. It's their property. You know, and Woodbury said it seemed like it was made for theme parks. I personally don't care about Wicked. So on a personal level, I
can see like one attraction. I just don't know like how you would turn the whole entire thing into a land.
Unless you played more into the Wizard of Oz as a whole, perhaps. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the rumors are it would be Wicked. But to what I have heard, I haven't heard really any rumblings about Wicked. I've heard a lot of other properties be talked about not involving Wicked. So really, I think most of that stems from Woodbury himself kind of making those statements. But I haven't heard anything from people that have talked about, you know, rumored things coming to Lost Continent or Epic as really being high up on that list. So you could also just do like a show. I think it would be great for a show. Like they've already got it represented in the studio side with the walkthrough area and the gift shop, and that's been pretty popular. I just don't know if it's popular enough to really garner like a full-fledged, like, here's a whole land based off of Wicked. I think that could be a little bit of a risk compared to some other properties they could utilize. I think would be bigger, surefire wins, at least in my opinion.
And actually, let's talk about one of those properties, because honestly, another property that has gone high up in the ranks as far as especially to replace Lost Continent is One Piece.
Yeah,
that one is high up that people are talking about. And honestly, I did a little bit of research on it because I'm not too familiar with it. Anime is not really like my forte, but I'm starting to see that anime is not only, because I've noticed by going to Universal Fan Fests out here in Hollywood that it's big, obviously, in the Japanese and Asian cultures, but of how big of impact and growth it has gone into the American pop culture as well. And it now has bled into adding it into the theme park ranks. So when they added One Piece and the Jujutsu Kaisen or whatever it's called, in, the Kung Fu Panda Theater for Fan Fest, I mean, people were going nuts for it. They were dressed in the cosplay. They were waiting 2 to 3 hours for the meet and greets. They were saying the lines. They knew the backstories. I didn't know what the hell anybody was saying. Like, I didn't know anything of it. But it's now moving forward to where, by doing a little bit of research, I can see where One Piece would fit in Lost Continent with, again, the architectural style. And also, I feel like 5 acres, I think, for One Piece would be decent.
Yeah, especially considering it's, you know, we've talked about this before as well on other live streams about, I think Universal would take a risk on anime considering the like manga and all that. It's very popular. I'm like you. I don't watch anime, but I recognize, you can see how big it is and how much money it makes. And I do think you're going to start seeing a lot more Hollywood and TV shows. They did the One Piece live action with Netflix. So it definitely has a growing audience. And I think if you're looking at that as a property that, I think it would be somewhat of a risk, you know, Lost Continent, one attraction in there, you put it in there, like it could be a good testing ground to see what people think about it. And I think from what I've seen of it, I think Lost Continent could work for that, just in terms of what's already there. You wouldn't have to change a ton, kind of like Zelda. You can kind of make that work, kind of that way that looks. But I mean, given what you guys said about FanFest and the anime reaction over there, I think that may have, from what I would assume, you could look at that. And if you're looking at testing of what audiences want, that could have been enough for them to be like, okay, like there's something here with this. And I think it honestly would be huge. And I didn't even know, like, apparently One Piece has like 30 seasons and it's not even done yet. Like, it's apparently these shows just go on forever. So some people are saying they wish it would wait till it was done running, but who knows when they'll end it. But I do find it very interesting. Like, I think OG even said kind of like almost their version of a Pirates of the Caribbean type of experience you can do.
Yeah. And also, too, I mean, kind of sticking on the anime, I mean, just this past weekend, Demon Slayer broke all sorts of domestic box office records with $70 million. I mean, literally open weekend. My son's a huge Demon Slayer fan.
Yeah.
I watched a couple seasons with him and trying to still make heads or tails of it. But I'm going to go see the movie myself just to see if I can read into it of like what it's all about. But apparently this is going to be a 3-part movie.
Really?
And this is part 1.
Oh, wow.
And from what my son had said was, because he's currently in high school now, but by the time all 3 parts of the saga ends, he'll be in his 20s.
Wow.
So that's what he's saying. And I believe him because, as I said, he follows all this stuff with anime and Demon Slayer, and he knows all this stuff. I sure.
Yeah, I've got friends that are into it, and I was like, hey, where should I start? And then you get this list of like 30 things. And I'm like, okay, I can't commit to this off the bat. So I think I did say I do want to watch like Dragon Ball Z. I've heard that's a pretty good place to start. Yeah. But it's definitely like, I love comic books and that type of stuff. It's just, there's just so much of it out there. It's just like a starting point, I think, can be a little bit of a challenge. But I suppose that's where you get into like the movies and the live action. It gives people a jumping board into it. And then that's how people can kind of get into it. And a theme park land would be great for that. If that's where they end up doing that, I can imagine that if they did One Piece, I'm sure One Piece would get even more popular as they would use it as a way to introduce it to people as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like for me, growing up as a kid, anime, I would say like my max was like Studio Ghibli with like Hayao Miyazaki films and Pokemon, Digimon, and Yu-Gi-Oh. Like that was my anime growing up as a 90s kid.
Well, it's funny how much of the anime has gotten into like, you can see the animation style. Like I remember, I think it was Ben 10 back in the day. Like that was kind of anime-ish in terms of the way they did that art. So you've had this influence in some of the art stuff for a bit. I think the first time I ever really saw much of it when The Matrix had those it was like that movie, but they're like cartoon shorts that kind of extended the story.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was anime. That was kind of the first time I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I loved the Matrix movies. I still like the sequel ones, even though those didn't do very well, but I love the Matrix. But yeah, that's kind of all I know on anime. But if you look at the charts, you look how popular it is, like it's undeniable how big it is. And I think if Universal, if they were kind of thinking about taking a risk, it might be worth trying on some level, whether that's a land or maybe a show. Maybe they start smaller. But I know what you guys are saying about FanFest, it was massive out there.
Oh, it was. I mean, I think out of everything, like, I mean, Back to the Future was nostalgic. Like people loved interacting with the characters and going through the scenes. And we actually got to walk actually on the movie set of the studio tour. That was like one of the best highlights, I think, of my life. The fact that I'm literally walking on the grounds of Hill Valley where they shot the movie. Like that was like one of, I can't even put into words like what it felt like to actually walk on that.
Yeah.
It was,
my wife would have lost her mind. That's her favorite movie of all time. And I get that way about like history too. I remember I went to where JFK was shot, and it's just weird of like, I'm standing where this historical event took place, like right in this spot. That stuff always just hits me weird when you visit like historical places like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like, aside from that, that was more like nostalgia kind of thing. But as far as like popularity goes, One Piece took the win on that one. Cause I'm seeing all people walking around with like I don't even know, like the red vests and like the straw hats and like, and I'm like, okay, like I get what it's coming from, but it's like, I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
But everyone knew what it was. And
which would be interesting, because if you did One Piece, obviously that's for like the younger demo, something that's going to continue to grow versus, and they still could do a Back to the Future thing where that satisfies the nostalgia existing fan base. You kind of hit both of those fan bases, which would be potentially a very genius move if you're able to tap into both ends of that. It's not often you're able to do that.
Yeah, and I think honestly, Back to the Future is going to come back, no pun intended, in a big way. I think on multiple levels in multiple locations. I don't think it's just going to be one park. I think it's going to be pretty universal. Again, no pun intended.
A lot of pun. I like it. Well, that's one of the rumors out there is Rip Ride Rocket's replacement to likely be Fast and Furious, which would mean Supercharged would be going away because that's a terrible ride.
Yes.
And Lynn Testa had even said that he had been hearing that would be where they would put Back to the Future potentially. So I mean, as much as people you talk about Fast and Furious and people think ugh, but I'm like, I get why they would do it. But if it's a great coaster, it doesn't really matter what the IP is. I mean, if it's a good coaster, it's a good coaster, but it frees up getting rid of Supercharged. And if you put Back to the Future on the studio side, I think that would be massive.
Can you tell me how Supercharged even got placed in there in the first place? Like, I would love to know.
I do. I would love to.
The meeting that they all sat around.
Yes.
And they said, here's the concept. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get it in there tomorrow. Like,
yeah, I thought the exact same thing about, I would love to just, from the conception to like along the way, it's like, was there nobody that was just like, hey, this is bad? Or was it just like Vin Diesel was like, I want to ride? And then just like, Vin's going to get mad. I like the final ride through and they're just like, yeah, good to go. And it's like, it's just, like, I took my brother on it. He hadn't been to Universal since we were like I was in 8th grade. That's how long it had been. He had been there since the Wizarding Worlds were added. So we went to, it was this summer. And I was like, okay, we got to ride Supercharged. I didn't tell him anything about it. So he's walking through and he's like, okay. And we do the whole thing. And he turns to me during they kind of do that spiel before you ride. And he's just like, is this like a joke? And I'm like, yeah, kind of. It's supposed to be serious, but the team members know that it's lame. So they kind of play into it and we get off of it. And he's like, why did they do this? I'm like, I don't know. It was just like, it's a meme ride. You just ride it one time to be like, I rode it, but it's just so bad.
Yeah. I think honestly, when you look at both parks, like for Universal Hollywood and Universal Orlando, I feel like it kind of fit in with the tram tour because it kind of gave off that notion of how they use Kong, like part of the studio tour, even though it's still bad. But to just have its own separate ride where you're actually standing in line just for that segment alone, nothing else. At least with the Ram Tour, you're getting everything else with it.
It's a bad part of an overall better ride. Yeah, this one. Well, I'm kind of hope that this is the end of they did the same thing with Kong. It's like the tram tour. They kind of made it its own ride. And like, I'm just not a fan of having stuff on the sides where you just kind of got to look at it. It's one thing if you're in a tram going somewhere, but when you're just on that ride and I by the way, I think in Supercharged, I bet you in Vin Diesel's contract, if you watch that ride, he always has to be taller than everybody else because if you pay attention in there, he's like up on that truck and Tyrese never gets up close to him.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing too. I mean, he's bigger than the copter.
Yes.
Like
that thing is worse graphics than like a 2015 video game. You're just like, yeah, it's
I think honestly that had a lot to do with some demand for the actors of like saying, hey, I want to ride, I want some sort of gratitude.
I would assume.
Yeah.
Then just like, I'll do 8 more Fast and Furious. I want to ride. And they're just like, all right, got to give him a ride. Yeah, it's so bad. And like, that's funny. It's not that old.
No.
And Universal knows how bad it is. My wife and I got stopped for a survey and they were asking us what's our least favorite attraction. And before we could even answer, they go, besides Supercharged, we know exactly where that stands. And I was like, oh, okay. So they just are like,
at least we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, like we know this sucks. Like, what's your second least favorite ride? And you're like, oh, okay.
But I do agree with you. I think I'm okay with, I mean, we all kind of had the notion, is the coaster going to be Back to the Future? Is the coaster going to be Ghostbusters? But if it is a replication of what's coming out here in Hollywood, I'm okay with that because, again, of what you said, it alleviates that space for them to have an excuse to get rid of Supercharged, and then that could turn.
Well, it'll be a different coaster. Like it wouldn't, even if it's the same, if they do the drift, it's not going to be the same track because you got such a narrow space that would work in there anyway. So it'd be a similar coaster but different. And then I think that you do need, if you're going to have a lot more people coming in off of Epic Universe, you need more attraction to absorb crowds. And currently, even on a busy day, you're not going to see Supercharged over 15 minutes. Like just people are not going to ride it. And so that's just going to mean bigger wait times everywhere else. So if you had something there that actually has demand, it's going to help the whole park in terms of wait times.
Well, now, since they are clearing out room that's behind where Rip Ride Rocket was, rather than have the track layout go the same pathway of Rip Ride Rocket, would they have it going this way rather than this way?
It's a good question. I might be able to find it. There's because Intamin's making it, and there is a track that they have that almost looks identical to Rip Ride Rockit in terms of its layout. It even has a vertical climb like Rip Ride Rockit. That could be the replacement there. I get the direction would be interesting. I have not heard one way or the other, but that would be kind of interesting. I would assume maybe the same way, but I never really even thought about that. But although I think the rumor is that the loading station would be where the Ghostbusters firehouse is. Mm-hmm. So I guess that would mean it might go left instead of going right. Because then you don't have much real estate to the right side if that's where that's going to go, which it seems like that's likely where it will be.
I mean, do you think there's any hope left that it still may be Ghostbusters theme?
I don't think so. I think what I have heard also is they might do a Ghostbusters like in that firehouse thing there that will stay Ghostbusters. They might have a meet and greet or something going on there. I just don't think Ghostbusters has the appeal. The sequels I don't think have helped anything, and I think that's why Back to the Future has remained so popular is because it hasn't been touched. It's still just like this nostalgic piece that just hasn't changed.
Sorry, I just got a text from Slimer. His eye twitched.
He's really. I'm gonna duck because he's gonna be bad. I love Ghostbusters. I just don't think it has the. Even Fast and Furious on some level, it makes sense to have a fast roller coaster, be Fast and Furious, and even if it's a franchise, that whole franchise is insane. But it would make sense to do it. And if you're already doing it in Hollywood. Universal likes to put those things in all their parks on some level. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it very likely would be Fast and Furious. And really the thing that to me that sells it is just how bad Supercharged is. And it's just going to continue to be a stain. I just think they want that. I don't think they want to ride in their parks that is universally looked at as just like a joke attraction.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I think like if you're going to have Fast and Furious,
yeah. So they probably thought, okay, how can we have a compromise where we could still keep the franchise alive in the parks?
Yeah.
Do somewhat of a rendition done here of the Fast and Furious coaster so we can get rid of Supercharged and then put something else
right
gratifying.
It's like it does make money. I mean, it's a franchise that makes tons of money. Most of it's overseas. It's not as big domestically, but I understand why they want it represented in their parks. It's their own IP. But I just think, you've got better things to put in that part of the park, which is obvious. You've got Harry Potter, you got Diagon Alley right there. So you already got a lot of foot traffic in that area. An attraction that actually has demand would help in terms of crowds and overall, I think just how that park would operate.
Yeah, I agree. Now, speaking, you had mentioned Potter, and I did want to ask you on this because, again, we were also talking about Lost Continent and everything. Now, I personally don't want any more Potter. I think we have enough in the parks. But being that partial of Lost Continent was taken over with Potter, could they potentially just take the rest out and just make that all Harry Potter? Especially now because with the new series coming out, could that then lead to the excuse of, oh, yeah, we need even more Potter now than we ever did?
That's a good question with that new series and how that goes. The other thing I have heard as well, the rumor that they could extend Hogsmeade, and given it's only 5 acres, I mean, I could see why they would justify doing that because they may look at that 5 acres and what could we really do with this. I have heard that is a potential if they did. I agree with you. I don't think we need any more Wizarding World, but if you did look at that, get another one ride in there, do something else, I think it would probably be popular. I would just be curious, and we've talked about this too, about where is Harry Potter in 20 years? Like, is it still big enough to really justify having all these lands in their parks? You know, maybe not, but that is something that I could see them do. I think given the size of Lost Continent, that does add a wrinkle to it because it's not that much space to really work with.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing with Potter. Yeah, I feel like the series alone is going to be a risk of how people are going to take to it. I mean, there is going to be like no middle ground to it. It's either you're going to like it, it's going to be really good, or it's going to suck and you're really going to hate it. Yep. And that would depict whether or not, how much more of Potter mania, so to speak, that people want to see in the parks. Again, I'm kind of burned out of it. I'm fine for what they have, but I think they should just kind of leave it alone. But at the same time of what you were saying, by adding a whole nother IP to only 5 acres, again, yeah, what really can you do? You're basically looking like at a mini land.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, if this show is, let's say it becomes really popular, you could essentially replace the actors in these rides with, you could just put these new actors in those rides and it would be the same. I'm sure Hogwarts is going to look the same. Like a lot of these set pieces, I think, will look the same, and you could swap out the actors if this series takes off, which is not a given that it will. But I suppose that is the one thing they could be looking at, is if it does get sort of revitalized in that way, it would give it more lasting power, and then you could just kind of redo these lands a bit.
Yeah,
it's possible. I've also heard potentially Pokemon might be going into island over there in the Lost Continent, which is surprising to me that it's even a rumor. And I heard, a couple people actually told me that it's been discussed, because the big rumor there was it was going to replace Simpsons on the studio side. And I would assume with Pokemon, you would have a much bigger land, because I think Pokemon would be massive. And I would assume you just want a bigger area.
And really, I did hear that the more rumor of Pokemon would have been replacing the Simpsons rather than the Lost Continent. Me personally, if they wanted to do a bigger scope of Pokemon, I would have thought that they would have replaced Toon Lagoon.
Yeah.
Because with Toon Lagoon, you kind of already have like that animation look, the bright fluorescent colors of how the Pokemon are. You have the water rides, which could be based off of like the grass and water type Pokemon. But I for Pokemon, yeah, I just can't foresee them just doing like a mini land with one attraction. That's sort of like with Zelda. Like I feel like they need a much more bigger space.
Yeah. Well, because Zelda and Pokemon are huge. And I think that I really do think potentially Nintendo could be bigger for Universal than Wizarding World has been for them, given that Nintendo's only seemingly getting bigger and bigger. It's not going to go anywhere. It's been around since the 80s, and it's just going to continue to grow. And really, if you think about One Piece, it could also make sense in Toon Lagoon. It's based off of boats in some level. You could put it in there. Like, it just, every time you look at Lost Continent, it's just, I just don't know what would go in there with the space. I mean, I think it's just so small. That's what, every time I look at something, I'm like, yeah, that would make sense. And you just look at the map and you're like, yeah, it's not, and there's really nowhere to expand it either. Like, you can't go forward anymore because you're going to run right into Seuss Landing.
Right. Well, okay. Now, I'm glad you actually mentioned that land. I'm going to come back to that one because I actually have a question for you on that. Okay. But just speaking of just Toon Lagoon, like the kids today, again, a lot of times kids don't even really care what the IP is as long as it's a fun ride for them. But in the metrics of how studios and theme parks think, they still want to have something that people can relate to. And kids demographic, they don't know the early like newspaper comic strips. They don't know about Hagar or Brunhilde or like those kind of things. I remember talking to my son and I asked him, do you know who Betty Boop is? And he said, is that a porn star? And I'm like, no, she was a comic strip. But I was like, in the time, she was kind of a little bit of a sex symbol. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's funny, Toon Lagoon was outdated when they built it. Like, none of those cartoons were relevant even when Islands of Adventure opened. And so it's really been outdated since the get-go of it. I mean, Rocky and Bullwinkle, I suppose, would be the most notable thing. But what's funny is all the stuff you would hear. I've made videos about it, hey, Toon Lagoon's prime for a replacement. And I'll get pushback. I was surprised how much pushback I had of people being like, don't touch it. And it's because of the water rides, which I get. Right. They're actually pretty solid water rides. But you could leave the water rides on some level and just retheme that whole area. And Toon Lagoon's a big space. You've got like play areas. Like it's a lot bigger.
After you saying that, I can see Toon Lagoon getting rethemed to One Piece because it kind of already has the same color palette.
Yep.
And again, yeah, you're right. It has a lot to do with the water, like with pirates and boating and everything. Yeah, I think honestly, if they were to do One Piece, you probably would have a much better transition, so to speak, from Toon Lagoon.
Well, you refurb those rides a little bit because they're looking a little rough. Dudley Do Ride could use a little. It's a little rough the last time I rode it. You do those up different. It's still the water rides. It's still going to have demand, but you put a different overlay. You got meet and greets. Merchandise. I mean, how much merchandise sales would they make off of One Piece? Because Toon Lagoon's not driving merchandise sales right now.
If there's one thing that they could really do with Ripsaw Falls is update the logs, because the way you have to get in them is like so weird. You have to like lock your legs.
Yes.
Slide down. and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like,
And
can
I
we
have
just,
long legs, and it's not. Yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't get into. Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
know
I
what
have bad knees, so it's like, yeah, this is like, and I love the ride, but it's like getting in and out of those things
you
is
mean.
it's it's not fun.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think it could. I mean, I agree. Like keeping, and that would be one way to do One Piece at a low risk. Would just be leaving those rides that are already popular. I mean, Toon Lagoon itself is not driving anybody in there. It's just those rides. So you leave the rides, you retheme it, and then you throw everything else in there. One Piece, redo the play areas, the One Piece. Like it really is kind of a good area where you could just retheme this to something that is at least more popular. That it's more popular than Betty Boop in its current state. I mean, it just is, and it's the same. It's still an animation area, and so I was kind of surprised to hear about One Piece potentially in Lost Continent just for kind of that reason there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Now, you had mentioned very briefly, and I was going to bring it up anyway, was Seuss Landing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, you do want to have a land dedicated for the littles, the kiddos. You know, they have to have an area to play and, you know, have rides geared towards them. But how really relevant is, and I know this is horrible because I am a fan of Dr. Seuss. I thought he did brilliant work and everything, but just the IP franchise as a whole, how relevant is it to where, because I mean Seuss Landing, that's also a land that's kind of run down itself. I mean, literally they got
Yeah,
paper clips holding the Cat in the Hat together
I
in
know.
the ride.
Yeah,
It's I'm pretty soon I'm thinking like we're gonna see like wads of like gum holding things together.
yeah, it's
Um,
in rough shape. Even there's been a lot of I've seen other people make videos about how rough a shape it's in. Like my kids are 6 and 9, and my son more is like we read Dr. Seuss books before bed and stuff like that. So it has relevancy there, but in terms of pop culture, it doesn't really hold any. There's not really any popular Dr. Seuss cartoons. They've got a new Cat in the Hat movie coming out, I think, and I don't imagine that's probably going to do that
Well, yeah,
well.
and it was supposed to come up, but actually it got pushed back like almost a year.
Okay, yeah,
And honestly, by watching the previews, the animation looks good because it kind of has like that Paperman kind
hmm
of like 2D mixed with 3D.
like that Into the Spider-Verse look.
Yeah, into the
Yeah,
Spider-Verse. Yeah, but the storyline, it does not look good.
yeah.
It just doesn't fit. So I don't think this movie is going to help the land at all.
Probably not. That's like, I mean, as much as like our kids growing up have really enjoyed Seuss Landing, and our daughter's like aging out of it now. She's much more into the roller coasters. It would be interesting about that if Universal took the route of those kid resorts, which I've talked about. They could put one in Orlando. I think the one they're building in Texas is only like 50 acres. They're not that big. They're not that expensive. You could have a place for the kids to go do stuff, and then that would open you up to where you basically just say, okay, these parks here, these are the adult parks, then we have the kids park here. I think it's a valid question because Seuss Landing is kind of in rough shape. I enjoy it, although the only thing about that is the Grinch around Christmas is massive. Like it gets a ton of demand. Like the Christmas show they do, I love the Grinch show. The meet and greet will be 5 hours long. I mean, it's crazy with that. So I think how well they do that, it would probably.
Yeah, and honestly, I've seen that even out here because they do Grinchmas out
Mhm.
here at Hollywood. But that also begs the question that if they could actually do it out here in the studios, could they potentially move Grinchmas over to the studios in Orlando if
Yeah.
they were to alleviate Seuss Landing? Yeah, Abby and I waited like 2.5 hours to meet the Grinch, and I was so pissed off because after we were done, the team member literally she took like 20 pictures. She could not get all three of us looking at the camera at the same time.
Oh,
There was
geez.
not one photo.
We did it. We did the Grinch breakfast a few years ago. It was like the guys who the person or the people that play the Grinch, they do such a good job. I've never seen a Grinch
Yes.
that was not great.
Yes,
In the show, but like they did a thing last year though where in the AP lounge they don't announce it, but all of a sudden the Grinch just pops in there, and we were able to meet him. Waited like 10 minutes, and so I do like how Universal does that stuff for APs. But I guess you could shrink Seuss Landing not make it as big, because in that area that you've got the walkway, you got that bridge, which you could take out that bridge, which would give you space. And it really over there, you've got a kids play area kind of there a little bit. Or is it there? I think, well, maybe on the other side. I mean, you potentially could shrink it down. I don't think they would get rid of it, but it's definitely not in the best shape. And I agree, like Dr. Seuss stuff's just not as relevant now. And they may have other IPs they could put in there, but I think the main thing that would just hold that whole thing up is just the Grinch.
Now, you had mentioned like the kids park that's going to be placed in Texas. Now, there's a lot more land that Universal owns that's more closer to Epic. Now, of course, we could see Epic expanding, but we could also maybe see other things. Could you potentially see, if the Texas park does well, that they could make a kids park, a park dedicated to kids, and add it a little bit more closer to Epic, so that way it also gives more reason for people to stay at the hotels over there, and it also alleviates like areas in the existing parks like Seuss Landing that they can end up where they say, well, we're getting rid of the kids section here in this park, but we got a whole park dedicated to the kids. Can you see that happening?
I can't. I've theorized I could totally see that. And if you look at the areas around Epic, I mean, they currently have a permit for a section of land near Epic. That area's been rumored to be a hotel, but they've got a lot of different spots they could work with to do it that would be near Epic. That, you know, there's even theorized of a space. You have a whole other area where you could build a whole other park eventually, like 100 some odd acres. But I think if you did it, if one thing it would help that problem with, it would give you a dedicated area for kids. That would be an area where they haven't directly competed with Disney on that level before. I think they have the IPs to do it, especially if you threw in like Nintendo and some of these other properties. I think that would be massive for that age group. Plus, you could advertise you have 4 parks that aren't including Volcano Bay. And then you could also just appeal more to families and make it more of a week-long destination. And it appeal to everybody in the family. And you know, Universal talk about these kid resorts where they're aimed at 8 and under to get them kind of introduced to the Universal brand, and then eventually they graduate to the bigger ones. But I think the kids park is costing somewhere around $500 million, which for a brand new park is not that much money, because Epic costs $6 to $8 billion. So I think it's definitely possible. I've theorized. I mean, I guess it would just depend on if they're going to use these kids resorts as just keep it outside of Orlando, but I think it actually could be a very inventive thing they could do. And then that would free, because they are landlocked. They're not like Disney World. So that would free up those areas of the park that are for kids, but they can say, hey, you can still get all this kid stuff in this park here. I think it could be something they do. I think it would be it'd be a risk, but I think it might be something that could really pay off for them, even on the marketing side too.
I agree. And honestly, you had mentioned about adding like a Nintendo IP, and I think the one that I think in my mind that would gear more towards the younger kids, that they can kind of have like a little playland kind of thing, would be Kirby.
Oh yeah,
I think Kirby would like work out perfectly if you're going to mesh like the world of Nintendo but put it in like a younger kids demographic. I think Kirby would be the perfect.
And you've got all the baby Mario stuff. You got Yoshi, like Yoshi Island, which is kind of what the Yoshi ride is based off of a little bit. Yeah, they've got, I mean, that's the versatility of Nintendo. Like Harry Potter is very much like, our daughter's into it now, and now she's turned like 9. So you're talking like 9, 10 years old, they kind of start getting into that. Nintendo kind of appeals to everybody. Like you can hit age groups, young and older. And so it's very versatile. And I think if you had a kids park that had Jurassic Park, Nintendo, SpongeBob, Trolls, Minions. I mean, you've got the IPs now to really compete where they didn't have that 10 years ago.
Well, and SpongeBob too is still a hot intellectual property. I mean, like, they're going to be coming out with a new movie. The show is still on fire after like 20 some years.
It's just one of those shows that just keeps going. Like it really never like got as high as, you know, some of these huge cartoons, like a Bluey level, but it just maintains this like steady interest. And it's just, you know, it's simple fun. Like I never was huge into SpongeBob, but if it was on, I would watch SpongeBob. Like it's fun. Like, you know, especially like a water area or something like that, it'd be perfect.
Yeah, that would be, I think honestly, anything SpongeBob is pretty much like a done deal. I'm actually this is OG's story, but I'm going to mention on here just for the sake of, because he's told it so many times on OG 55. But when he was doing an internship, I I think it was like at the time at Nickelodeon or something or other, and he was doing like Xeroxing and that kind of stuff. Yeah, Xeroxing back in the day, like when you would actually have to go to the room and like make copies and stuff like that. He was passing by a room and he saw like the storyboards of like, and they didn't have like a full-fledged like look for SpongeBob, but it was titled SpongeBob SquarePants, and he saw the little cards up on the board and he's thinking, what kind of show? Who's going to watch that?
Right. Yeah.
In that moment. And it's like, and it just became this phenomenon that like, in how many different generations that SpongeBob is still relevant. And you had mentioned Bluey, and I feel like Bluey is kind of like moving in that same SpongeBob direction.
Yeah. Bluey's big. And it's funny, Disney this is an interesting one. Disney, remember they made that announcement that Bluey was coming to the cruise lines on select cruises, and then there's going to be in Disney World and Disneyland. And then it's been radio silent since then.
Yeah, they mentioned it because they also did a kind of like a beta test at the last D23. They had Bluey and her friend, the other one,
her sister Bingo, probably.
That's it, Bingo.
Yeah,
they had both of them as like a meet and greet, and like the line was at the wazoo. Like they had to cap it off like in the morning. The day wasn't even fully like midday through, and like no one can meet them. So the fact that I feel like that was a beta tester, and you're right, they mentioned it that she was going to be on the cruise line, both Disneyland, Disney World. After that announcement, nothing. Now again, they are updating the Disney Junior section in Hollywood Studios.
Yeah,
I'm thinking maybe that's where she would be. The same out here, like in the Hollywood Land section with where the animation building is. I'm assuming that's where she would go, depending on how much we'll get to keep of it, of Pandora, if we'd ever get an answer.
The only thing they have done with Bluey is this summer they had the Cool Kids Summer, and when we were at a hotel, and they came by and gave a little goodie bag. So when you have kids on the reservation, they'll give you some goodie bags for the kids, and inside those was like a Bluey coloring book and stickers and stuff like that. But other than that, I haven't seen anything. They had a Animal Kingdom like scavenger hunt that was Bluey that lasted like 3 days, and then they had to shut it down. I'm wondering, given that Disney doesn't outright, like they're doing the distribution for the show, it's on Disney Plus. I'm wondering if those theme park rights got tied up somewhere that they just didn't cross all the T's and dot all the I's, because they did have it in like a Sesame Street land in like Pennsylvania, where Bluey was part of it was like a parade and a meet and greet.
I think, yeah, that was in, because I went to the Sesame place. I went there when I was younger, when I lived over in PA. I think it's in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, I think, or something.
I think that may be right, yeah.
I have heard that. And I also heard that with the Bluey movie coming out, I don't know, that's not even distributed by Disney, is it? I think that's coming from another, is that coming from another studio?
Well, it's Ludlow, I think, is the studio that makes it. I'm pretty sure Disney is the distributor of it, but they're not the studio that makes. So Disney has no creative input about it. They're just basically helping get the movie out, from my understanding. Because they said at the same time they made the announcement they're going to distribute the movie that's supposed to come out in like 26 or 27, and then they also said Bluey is coming to the theme parks. That was in like January or February. It may have been last year.
Right now, Disney is probably kicking themselves in the pants for not buying the full rights to that thing.
Oh, and they could have. They got offered when they did the Disney Plus deal, because Bluey wasn't anything, and they declined them. So I that may be one of the bigger mistakes they've ever made of not securing those. But I mean, in terms of, you're talking back to Universal and the kids stuff. I mean, I think they have a pretty decent opportunity to hit a different niche, especially considering Disney does not have the stranglehold on kids that they used to. I mean, like our kids, they're into all.
No, honestly, it's very interesting when you look at it as a scope. When you really look at it through like a microscope of how it was back then, where you literally, it feels like Freaky Friday to me. It feels like Disney and Universal switched roles.
Yeah.
Universal is now trying to gear towards a much younger demographic with the kids areas and what can we put here? What can we do here? Now Disney is trying to placate to more of the adults, where when we think of Monsters Inc., obviously like the new land coming to Hollywood Studios, it's like, okay, everyone's focusing on, okay, what kind of kids stuff are they going to do with Monsters Inc? No, we're all anticipating this is going to be the first suspended roller coaster that's ever graced into Disney property. We're thinking of like Thrills. The Muppets is now going into Rock and Roller Coaster.
I know.
It's
well, like our kids aren't into, they don't even know Monsters Inc. I think they've watched it and it was a movie they're like sometimes to be okay with, but like, you know, our kids are into K-pop Demon Hunters, like, you know, you got different YouTube shows, Sonic, things like Mario, Super Nintendo, stuff like that. Like they're into all that stuff. I mean, they like our daughter, she's kind of out of that princess phase. Mm-hmm. She really liked Lilo and Stitch, which I'm shocked that Disney still hasn't done something else in the parks with Lilo and Stitch. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's like there's just so many different things now the kids are into that I do think Universal has an opportunity to really kind of tap into that. And I think that's hitting Disney, like Disney's strong suit. I agree with you. It's interesting. Is the kids, like especially 8 and under, where you have rides that appeal to everybody, and they're definitely skewing older now, whereas Universal may just be looking at that being like, okay, we already have this group of people that like, you know, this thrill stuff. Let's go into here. How that plays out will be interesting if that's a massive mistake by Disney, if that's a massive mistake by Universal, but I kind of feel like they have some area they could really take advantage of.
Yeah, I completely agree, honestly, because now as you said that your daughter is like now getting into like the roller coasters and kind of thing,
yeah,
where she may not be into Monsters Inc. as an IP, but she could see that roller coaster and say, you know what, I don't even care what the IP is. That roller coaster looks really cool. I want to go on that.
For sure.
But subconsciously, you're not thinking about really what the IP is. It's just that looks like a very interesting ride. Yep. And it gears more towards the older demographic, where now Universal is trying to revert back to, okay, what kind of things can we do for the younger generation?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, like if it's a well done land, I've always kind of argued it doesn't really matter the IPs that much. Like Pandora's a great example. I don't care about Avatar. I've seen the first one. They make $3 billion every time they're out. I couldn't tell you anything about the movies. Pandora's a fantastic land, but it'd be a great land even if you didn't have it attached to Avatar. If you're just like, hey, we created this mystical alien planet. Here's what you're doing. It'd still be great. So I think if you make a great land and have great rides in there, the IP doesn't matter as much. Now there's some like Wizarding World and Super Nintendo World and so certain ones I think make a big difference. But I think when you're talking about these mid-tier IPs, I don't know how much they really move the needle if the land, as long as the land is really, you know, solid.
If Disney and Universal was to do kind of like a demo land, so to speak, just because they used to do things that had no IPs attached to them.
Right.
If they were to do a beta tester of a ride where it had no IP, it had a theme to it, but nothing tied to like a movie or a show, I do wonder if people would still grow attachment to it, because it's just a great themed immersive attraction, whether or not it has an IP attached to it or not. And it's a shame, really, because Everest is one of those last dying breed attractions.
Yeah.
Even Iger had said, you know, the bus starts and stops at Everest. Mm-hmm. You know, but I love Everest. People still love Everest. It's a popular attraction. And you'd think Disney would look at that and say, well, there's no IP attached to this, but people still love it. They still go on the ride.
Yeah. I understand with IPs, like I understand why from a business and marketing standpoint, it's like, well, people already know it. It's easier to just relay that. Hey, you can check it out here. I would be very interested as well if Disney actually did say, hey, we're going to do an original from scratch IP. I still think it would do well. Now, maybe you'd have to sell people on it more, but I think if you had a mind-blowing attraction as part of it, I don't think the IP would make that much of a difference. I really don't. But I don't know if they're going to take that risk. Now, it's funny because I think Universal is kind of the ones that started everything had to be an IP. Like that was kind of their whole shtick from the beginning. So they were never known for having original stuff, whereas Disney was. And I felt over the years that Disney's definitely been taking a lot from Universal in that way. So maybe they just feel like they're competing. It's like an arms race. Like, well, we can't, not have an IP attached. But I would like to see what they'd be able to do, Because you think about the classic attractions like Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, Jungle Cruise, like these things were not IPs. They just, I mean, they are now, but they weren't when they made them. They just thought these rides up and created stories around them.
Yeah, and even look at Big Thunder. I mean, Big Thunder has no Space Mountain, you know? And you're right, because I feel like after Universal did Wizarding World, that's where I feel like the battle between the IPs of both companies.
That's where it all changed. It's like BC and AD. It's like once Wizarding World showed up, it was like, what? Like I had somebody on my channel that was they messaged me and said they worked at Universal whenever Hogsmeade was built, and they were selling. They worked in merchandise, and they said they were there whenever Universal gave a tour of the Disney executives, and he said the looks on their faces were just like, holy crap. Because you got to think Disney they were going to do it, and J.K. Rowling wanted an immersive land, and Disney, I think that the words from Iger were, that's impossible of building this heavily themed land, and the fact that they pulled it off. And he said they literally paid for, I think, the cost of Hogsmeade and Butterbeer sales alone within like 6 months or something. Like it was insane how much they.
Well, and especially like my money goes towards the Butterbeer revenue, because literally every time I get a Butterbeer, I always buy two.
Yeah,
I always double fist it, like always.
Got to. Although I remember they were $5 a piece. The first time my wife and I went, they were, every time we went, it was like it would creep up another $1, another $1. Yeah.
But I remember seeing the early concept art of what Disney wanted to do with Harry Potter, and honestly, I wasn't impressed with it. So
honestly, like a teacups ride or something like that.
They wanted to do a teacups ride and some sort of. There was another attraction that it was just so unappealing.
Yeah.
They also wanted to do like meet and greets with the characters, and Rowling was like, "Oh no, like, this is not going to be like a typical where you're going to take my characters and my story and you're going to kind of sugarcoat them into the Disney brand. Like, I want it to be original to what the Harry Potter brand is." And I feel like, honestly, that IPs belong where they do belong, and I feel like the Harry Potter universe would not have fit well in Disney's universe. I feel like Universal captured it well.
I can't even picture what. I mean, imagine the theme park landscape today if the Wizarding World never showed up. I mean, it's just I don't even know what it would look like because I had heard they were going to put it over there in Ariel's area of Magic Kingdom back there. That's where it was going to go.
Yes,
I don't even know. I mean, you can only operate on what you know now, but I'm just like, I can't even picture what that would look like in a Disney park. Just seeing Harry Potter in Magic Kingdom just seems insane, but it almost happened.
Yeah. And I mean, there are some times where you would think and say, because I thought the same thing with Avatar and Animal Kingdom. I'm thinking, how in the world is this going to look? But they actually made it work. But again, I feel like it only worked because they kind of took it off the playbook of Universal of how they did Wizarding World.
Well, it was a direct response. That's when they announced it. And you also had James Cameron and Joe Rohde directly working on that land. But yeah, I remember they announced that because that probably was the first notion that Disney was like, oh, we got to do something, because that was a third-party licensing deal that Disney hardly ever does. And that was because I think Hogsmeade came out in 2010 and Pandora's announced in like 2011 or something like that. It was
2011, and then it opened in 2017.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Yeah,
I swear every time we'd go to Disney, I'm like, it just was like never-ending construction. But
literally, Joe Rohde was a beast towards then, because literally he opened up Pandora and Mission Breakout at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland on the same day. Because I actually was there during opening day of Mission Breakout, where he started over in Florida, and then he flew over to California.
Yeah.
Literally all in the same day to open up both.
That's crazy. We had an Imagineer, former Imagineer that worked on Hagrid's. He also worked on Pandora, and he was talking about how between the two companies, there was really no difference in the level of detail. He's like, they both were just, obsessive about the detail of these things. He said James Cameron would go around and be like, no, that needs to be, like, he was that into even like the shades of paint they were using on some of this stuff. And he says the same thing when you had on Hagrid's, of just the level of detail. So, I mean, I think ultimately, even if you're a Disney fan, I do think Universal getting Wizarding Worlds, you have way more attractions now than you would have, because you wouldn't have had this arms race between the two parks of doing all the stuff they're doing. Like, I don't think Galaxy's Edge would have came about, which I would argue maybe it'd be better, but leave Osborne Family Lights. But you wouldn't have had half these lands that built if it wasn't for what Universal was able to do, and then just the back and forth there.
Yeah, and honestly, this is going to be probably a controversial statement to say, but I love Rise of the Resistance. I love Slinky Dog Dash. I love them as individual attractions. I did not need the lands to go with them.
I agree. Well, before you had Toy Story, you had Midway Mania, which is now Toy Story Mania, which I love that ride, but that was already there. I mean, I agree. We've talked about other times too. Like, I think Galaxy's Edge is a big swing and a miss in terms of what they could have done. That still has so much potential. Like, just not including the original trilogy stuff at minimum, I think it's just a war crime almost. I'm like, how do you finally build a Star Wars land and you just like, no Darth Vader? It's like,
like, that's where the franchise like really took off. Anytime you say Star Wars, you think of Darth Vader, you think of Anakin, you think of Leia and Han Solo with the Millennium Falcon and Chewie and Lando and all those classic characters. Like, when I think of Star Wars, I don't think of Rey. I don't think of Kylo. Like, that's not like the first thing that comes to my mind. Like,
so I think that was just hubris at play of we're going to base on our trilogy and it's going to be just as big. I'm like, you're talking like once in a generation that takes off on that level, like a Harry Potter. Like, these types of franchises don't come around all the time. And to think that, like, even with this new Harry Potter show, it's a lot of hubris to think that you're going to make this just as big as the original. Because, like, you just can't almost. I would be utterly shocked if they were able to even get half of what Harry Potter was able to.
And honestly, I feel the same way. Even like when The Force Awakens came out, I feel like the hype for that movie became so much bigger because people anticipated that Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill were going to be part of those movies.
That was the big conversation, is like, what, where's Luke? What's Luke doing? And then you finally find out and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Like,
that's what he's doing.
I'm telling you right now, when I went to theaters to watch The Last Jedi and he threw the lightsaber and walked away, I thought, so this is what we're getting.
Yeah. I remember seeing that movie and we went home and I was like, I was like, the first time I was like, I really don't like that. And then I saw it again and I was like, I hate this movie. And it was the first time I really was just like, maybe I missed something along the lines. But the second time I saw him throw the lightsaber, I'm like, okay, no. And then just after that, it's just been very unfortunate on all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's just, that gets into like respecting the IP. And
I can see, like, if they wanted to go down the route where Luke kind of felt like he was doubting himself because he felt responsible for Kylo turning evil,
right?
But he still wanted to put in an effort to try to make it better. But it's like, just to Don Wright, like everything that he's been through, that he actually helped his father literally become back from Vader to Anakin, and to just stand there, look at the lightsaber and just throw it over his shoulder and then walk away.
Well, even that, but then you get into as well, like, he wouldn't kill Darth Vader because he saw the good in him. But then you fast forward and he's willing to like attempt to take out his nephew. And you're like, what? Like, he wouldn't do that. Like, he would still be trying to, like, I see the good in you and all these things. It just is like whoever wrote the movies almost didn't watch the original trilogy in a way. But I think this goes into, like, if you respect the IPs and you put them into theme parks, obviously you have to work out the movies, but I think that goes so far with IPs. And I think now seeing where Star Wars is at, it's just a culmination of just not respecting the IP, assuming just because it's Star Wars that it's always going to be popular. And then that directly affects the theme parks, because Galaxy's Edge is not like, there's people in there. Rise of the Resistance is a great ride, but it's not like when you go to the Wizarding World, like the hustle and bustle you have in Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade. It's a totally different feel on those lands. And I think it could have been just as big as Galaxy's Edge potentially.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like with Galaxy's Edge, when they were coming out with the blue and green milk. That was kind of like Disney's way of trying to battle between the butterbeers. But
oh yeah,
I'm sorry. Like, I mean, I do like the blue milk. I prefer it over the green. Like, I'll get one here or there just when I'm in the park. But in comparison to the butterbeer, you can't beat it.
No, it's actually better with rum. It's like it actually tastes better. The blue milk or whatever, the green milk. Yeah, it actually has a better flavor because before it was just like it didn't really taste like much. Like okay,
it's true. Yeah, because it kind of has like a blue slushy, but then not. It still kind of has like this milky kind of.
Yeah, it's like this, I think it's coconut milk they have in it. I think it has a weird, like, whereas butterbeer is just delicious and it's like whatever form you get it in, like ice cream or hot or cold or whatever. Even the potted cream, I don't know if you've ever had it that way.
Oh, I never had it that way.
Oh my goodness, it might be my favorite. They have it in ours in the Three Broomsticks.
Okay.
But it comes in a little like glass little container. It's like pudding basically. It's excellent. Yeah.
Oh, I have to try that. Okay, so we talked about Harry Potter. We talked even about a little bit about Star Wars. Now I wanted to bring up to you another global franchise that's part of Universal that down in Orlando. They're going to finally get some TLC to it, and it's the Jurassic Park River Adventure.
Yeah.
Finally, that it's actually going to get some love. Now, here's the thing that I'm kind of like battling myself about it. Like, I'm happy that it's getting the TLC and it's going to get a lengthy refurbishment, which it does need.
Like 10 month refurbishment, I think.
10 months. Now, I'm very curious. Is it getting the Hollywood Studios revamp where it's going to be Jurassic World, or is it still going to stay classic Jurassic Park? Because see, that's where here's the thing, because I do love the classic Jurassic Park as opposed to Jurassic World, but I love the updated enhancements of Jurassic World, but I wish it was Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like they're going to do Jurassic World. If you look at the fact that even the movie this summer, it almost makes $1 billion every single time. And you have one Jurassic Park movie that these are all based off of. I can understand why they would. Ultimately, I don't know how much it would affect it. I think now that ride needs some help. It had some hurricane damage from the last 2 hurricanes that came through. They've kind of patchworked. The animatronics on the dinosaurs are in a real bad shape. So maybe they just go update those, bring them up to snuff, and they leave it as it is. I kind of feel like, given Velocicoaster is based off of Jurassic World, it might make theming sense to also do River Adventure. But I don't know. I haven't heard one or the other. I think if I were to bet, I would probably hedge a little bit of a bet that it's going to be Jurassic World. Because you also have the examples in the other parks that they've done recently too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, me personally, what I would love, I mean, don't get me wrong, I always am for a water ride, especially down in Florida. I know a lot of people aren't really too geared towards water rides anymore. I still enjoy them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like soggy shoes, or wet socks. Like, I hate that.
That's why you get Crocs, or my favorite, you ever heard of cane shoes?
Yeah.
So I have like 3 pairs of canes. I'm good with water rides. I'm the same way. I hate wet socks. You get Crocs or canes, it's all good. You just ride water rides, wear some board shorts. You'll dry in like 5 minutes.
Especially like in Florida. Yeah. But I absolutely love the Universal's Beijing Jurassic World, where you're in the Jeep.
Oh, man. I know.
Walking towards you.
Yes.
Man, if they got that, like...
Game over. Yeah.
It really is game over, because really there's very few attractions that would get me to fly cross country. If we were to get that rendition from Beijing over in Orlando, I personally would fly over there just to ride that ride.
I want it so bad. And the thing too, dinosaurs, like our son, like, boys love dinosaurs. It doesn't really matter how you present them. And even adults, like, to this day, I'm like, T-Rexes are cool. Like, if you got a ride where a T-Rex is chasing me, like, I'm in. Like, I think, I don't know if they have the space for it, I suppose. But man, if they could do it, I think that would be a massive, massive success.
Yeah.
And I suppose on some level, there is the chance that they could put it into Epic. I mean, the movies make money. They're going to make probably, how many more are they going to make? They're probably going to continue to. It doesn't really matter who's in the movie. Chris Pratt was in them, and they sub him out for Scarlett Johansson. They still make money. So it's like, they'll probably just
They're already talking about a sequel with her in it.
Yeah,
You know,
they'll just keep making them.
And a lot of people can possibly say, well, Jurassic's already in IOA. Why would they put it in Epic? Well, look how many lands Harry Potter has.
Right.
So,
I mean, if your argument is Wicked is successful, I would argue Jurassic Park is far more successful box office wise than Wicked. And I think that would have way more appeal.
I agree. Honestly, I think for Wicked, I'm okay with it, but I think I would be fine with just a single based attraction. I don't think it needs a whole entire land, where at least with Jurassic, you can get a full fledged land out of it.
Yes. Yeah, I would love just that whole thing. Like you get that Beijing ride, like, and it really Wicked. You could satisfy the Wicked fan base with like a stage show, because that's what that is. You have a great musical that does it. Like I think that would satisfy the Wicked fans. But I feel like Wicked is a very niche audience. Like it's going to appeal to women and, probably a certain segment of the fellas out there. Other than that, you're really not going to get many more people coming in here. Whereas Jurassic Park, I think that appeals to a wide swath of people that, I mean, look at Velocicoaster, look at all these things. I think you would hit a way bigger demo with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, here's the thing. I actually enjoyed Wicked. I did see the Broadway show. I did love it back then. I did enjoy the movie. I do want to see part 2. But yeah, in a theme park environment, I don't know how far it would go. And I think having a show in there would bring it, 360, because it literally started as a Broadway adaptation.
Right.
Into a movie and then back into a show in the theme park environment. So I could definitely see that for sure.
Yeah, I would. And I think too, like you do a high end, all, pull out all the stops of a Broadway type show. I think that would become really successful. And I'm not a musical. I actually hate musicals, but I will say my daughter likes this movie because she thinks Hugh Jackman is handsome, is the Showman. That's actually a good movie. I actually enjoy it. It's the only musical I've seen in a very long time where I'm like, I actually enjoy that.
Yeah, The Greatest Showman is I enjoy them. They're actually turning that into a Broadway rendition.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Which I'm surprised. Which I agree with your daughter, but I'm surprised she didn't go more for Zac Efron than Hugh Jackman.
I am too. Yeah, she was just like, she's like, I like Hugh Jackman. I'm like, oh, you do? I'm like, I like him too. She's like, yeah. I was like, what do you like? She's like, he's handsome. And I was like, he is handsome. Although it is weird seeing Wolverine run down the street in a circus outfit. I'm like, what's Wolverine doing in this?
Yeah, that's
because he's got the same run every time. I'm just like, I'm waiting for the claws to come out.
Yeah. You're like waiting because anytime you see him running, you see Logan. Like
every time he just it's just like, oh, okay. But no, the songs are catchy. Even K-pop Demon Hunters is catchy. Like there's a lot of stuff now with musicals where I'm like, okay, like it's I think for me, it's always like the singing of dialogue. It's just so far removed from like the what do they call that in movies? There's a term for it of like suspension of disbelief. Yeah. I can believe a lot of things, but it's like you start singing back to each other. I'm like,
I think honestly, in today's time of how like people are so stressed out and there's so much tension in the world today, I think honestly, one day a year that they should just make it like Broadway style day where literally we all just break out in song.
And that's the day I will stay home. I'm just like, I'm not leaving the house today. It's like The Purge. And people just go around singing. I'm like, I'm locking my doors. I'm getting in the basement. Yeah. Don't answer the door. They're going to come singing.
It's like during Christmas time for the carolers. It's like, don't open the door.
Yeah. Because I don't know, like when people sing to you, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like if you answer the door to carolers, and like I love Christmas carols, love Christmas time, but it's like it's an audience of one. I'm like, I don't know what am I supposed to just stare, like catch one dude's eye and just be like, okay, you and I, we're locked in.
Or you do like that kind of like little sway back.
Yeah, like I feel like I have to. If I just stand there, they're just like, oh, he's not enjoying it. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, but I'm really uncomfortable. I'm just going to slowly shut the door and lock it. you hear the door, and then you just hear the.
And then the light goes off.
And I'm looking through the blind to see if they're gone. They're just like, oh.
I could definitely see you do that.
Oh yeah, I totally would. I never my wife would watch The Bachelor, and everyone would have a date where they would go out and like they have a singer that's singing just for them and like they're on stage dancing. and there's a crowd and the guy's singing at them. I'm like, that is my hell. Like, I just would be like, no, get me out of here.
Well, also too, like, like when people would go to like Vegas shows and they'd like go watch Wayne Newton or something, and he would go down into the audience and he'd pick one like woman, he'd like have his eye on, and he'd like kneel down by her and he'd like serenade her and all that. Like, those are like those moments where you're like, oh my God, like,
he's like, you gotta sleep with me now, and you're like, I guess, like, I don't want to be rude about this.
That's great. So for our last topic I wanted to bring up to you, I'm going to share my screen, because this is courtesy of the Dollywood website, actually. And this was brought to my attention by a good friend of mine, Kev, aka Mr. Tech Bear. And this is a new attraction that is coming to Dollywood. It's called Night Flight Expedition. And it's basically going to be a groundbreaking hybrid coaster and whitewater river ride. And they actually show different variation scenes of what the attraction is going to have, with soaring, plunging.
That looks cool.
Navigating. So, I mean, there's different renditions that there's so many aspects that's going to be part of this ride, which actually looks very interesting. And I have to give kudos to Dollywood for, implementing a ride like this. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this, of what I was told and what I've heard, that this was going to be the ride system for potentially for the Creature from the Black Lagoon, that was supposed to be part of the phase 1, which never got into Dark Universe.
Yeah, the ride system is by Mack Rides. I think they have it. It's out in Europe in can't remember the park out there, but they just opened that one up like 3 or 4 months ago, and seeing this one here. So yeah, it looks like a very interesting ride where it's like this coaster hybrid water ride, which I think would be perfect for Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm very curious. When we get done, I'll find the link and send it to you. But I've seen the ride footage of the one they have in Europe, and that one's not that well themed. It's like outdoors. This one looks much more indoors, which kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like this is what they would do with Creature from the Black Lagoon, is have it. You need indoor attractions anyways at Dark or in Epic Universe, but I think it seems like a ride system that's almost built for something like Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, and honestly, dare I say, it even gives off kind of like something that they would do for Avatar.
Yes, it kind of has that Avatar look to this right here too.
Yeah, it does. Like, where like right here, it has kind of like the bioluminescent forest.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing, and where you can implement where it's a hybrid of a coaster and a water ride, which basically you can kind of give the notion where it's like if you're flying on a Banshee and then you go into the waters of Pandora. I mean, that's something that Disney could possibly consider, and who knows? I mean, things could change, because even though they showed us a piece of concept art, they really didn't start really anything on it, where we may be getting the ride system from Shanghai Pirates. But that ride system was high in technology at the time, but we are now, like 10, 15 years down the road from that now. So I wonder if this would be kind of the answer to what Disney could possibly do. But I think, honestly, Universal, if they still consider doing, which I still think that they are, for the Creature of the Black Lagoon, now part of phase 2, because there is that little expansion pad there. And I think, honestly, Dark Universe needs it, because it needs to expand out a little bit more.
It does need, it does. And they also need indoor attractions, which I think, obviously, from this, it looks like that's what it's mostly going to be.
Yeah.
What would be wild is I agree with you, too. I think it would fit Avatar great. You could definitely do something with that, like you're riding a Banshee, skimming the water, doing stuff. It also could, and some people might comments on when I talked about this a couple months ago, Jaws. You can do something with Jaws if you had the room on studio side. But I actually think this ride system, you're going to see this kind of get in a lot of parks, because it's very like they used to. There was a ride I remember in Silver Dollar City when I was a kid. They had this coaster that at the very end it plunged into water, but it didn't last very long because I think of the maintenance of it ended up being too expensive. But this has been tried before, but this one seems to be very unique because when you're in the water too, it doesn't have the feeling like you're on a track. It actually has that free floating feeling, and then it kind of comes up. So it's got this very interesting ride concept. I would love it. I think, first off, I want to go to Dollywood. I've heard nothing but great things about Dollywood.
I want to go to Dollywood as well. That's actually on my bucket list for some places of traveling, because I've heard the atmosphere is great, the food is good, and it just gives off that traditional like amusement park.
Yeah. Well, it's a sister park to Silver Dollar City, which I grew up going to. It's like 45 minutes away. And that's always voted like the number one Christmas theme park in the world, because now they have the Osborne Family Lights at Christmas. So it's Christmas Town is awesome. But it's a great park. It's clean. So I think it's very similar to Dollywood. And they also have cinnamon bread. And George, you will freak out when you have cinnamon bread. Like Dollywood and Silver Dollar City have the same cinnamon bread. It's worth a trip on its own. I can't even describe to you how like you will buy a loaf and it's gone, and then you're like, I want 3 more, and they make it fresh. Like it's amazing. But yeah, I do want to go to Dollywood as well. But I think this ride system, I'm stoked for it. Like I just want this now because I think it would just be such a cool thing to. And I'm glad to see it come to the U.S. parks because Europe got it first, and Mac is technically, aren't they in Europe? I think.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
Could you even see? Now, I know there's really not too much of water implemented in this franchise, but we did touch upon it a little bit. Can you even see them doing something like this with Back to the Future or Ghostbusters or something where it may not like look like this, but you're just combining two different rides into one system with one ride vehicle?
Yeah, it's possible. I am curious if they do Back to the Future, what do they do? Like, do they just do like a really updated simulator that's just, really high tech, not your cut of, what you've seen for 20 years or so? Yeah, I mean, you could probably do this about anything you can create a story to make any of these things work. I kind of think that's how they go with theme parks now and I think Cliff Flicks has said it before, essentially, the ride manufacturers are such a major part of all these theme parks now, is you essentially find this tech, you see it, and you're like, okay, how can we create a story around this new ride tech? You could have a lot of different theme parks looking at this right now that's thinking, how could we create a story? Where would we put it? And that's kind of the central point of building off of the ride itself. And because they typically don't go out and say, hey, we need a ride that is X, Y, and Z. They say, okay, here's what we're building. Okay, let's take this tech and put it in here and then create something around it. So you could probably make anything work. I mean, time travel could be you land in a river, and you go back in time for a little bit. You can do a lot of stuff where you could make that work.
Yeah. I think honestly with this kind of ride system and ride technology, I think both Disney and Universal can utilize it and capitalize on it. And I think you're right. I think just the fact that it's coming to the US, and even though it's starting off in Dollywood, I feel like a lot of the theme park industries are going to be looking at this.
Oh yeah.
And kind of like letting Dollywood kind of be the guinea pig, so to speak, to see how it goes. And if it is a top tier, top notch attraction, which it looks like it's going to be, especially if Europe uses it, that I can definitely see other theme parks utilizing it for sure.
And what's interesting is like Dollywood and Silver Dollar City is building their first resort. They have really good coasters. Dollywood's expanding. So like you've got these, you've got your Disney World, your Universal Studios, and then you got these mid-tier parks that are kind of here in the Midwest. They're actually investing a lot of money. I think Silver Dollar City's spending like $500 million on the stuff that they're doing. So these parks are dropping a lot of coin. And I'm curious at what level they do this. Like if they really go all out, I'd be curious about the budget on this. You could definitely see, the big, Disney and Universal both looking at this and thinking, let's take this and put it in our parks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, like I've heard of it, but I didn't really get too much information on it until Kev actually sent me the link today. And I thought, well, we were going to have a conversation about like all things like with Universal and everything. And I thought, well, might as well bring this up now because
even One Piece.
Yes. One Piece utilize this.
Because doesn't the ship fly in One Piece?
I think so.
I mean, that would be perfect for One Piece.
Yeah. I mean, hell, if they even wanted to if Disney wanted to go, I mean, I know there's some controversy if they were to even touch Peter Pan, but if they wanted to update Peter Pan, they can kind of utilize it because you have the flying kind of like in the coaster form and then in the water for like the pirate ship and what have you.
Make him the villain of the story that he is. I agree.
Yes.
Peter Pan's a villain. I've been saying this for years. I mean, he takes kids and he doesn't want to grow up. That's not a good guy. Come on. But no, you could. I mean, you could do a lot. Really, like, the imagination is really the limit on this. Like, there's so many things you could do with a ride system like this. And especially in Florida, where water. I mean, I do think a hybrid ride system where there's water involved. You maybe don't get soaked, but you get a little water splashed on you. I think that would be perfect.
And you can honestly reverse it too of however you want the storyline to go. For like, you could start off as a coaster and then end it as a water ride, or you could start it as a water ride and end it as a coaster.
Yep. Yeah, I went all for it. And if Dollywood's leading the way, I'm like, hey, see what they do with it. When's it supposed to open? They say.
I believe it is. Let me see.
Because I will plan a trip around that.
Let me see. Does it mention?
They may not have a projected opening date yet.
Let's see. See 20. Now here's the funny thing. It's showing like the 2026 season pass, and it's showing
ride
like as like the headliner.
Maybe it is open in 2026. I mean, if that's the case, I will make a trip to. I mean, when we go back to Missouri, I think Dollywood's like 5 hours away, maybe. So I might go check that out. If that's opening that soon, that'd be awesome.
Let's see. Did you know current season pass for 2026 now? October. Yeah, I'm thinking it's
good. It did say, in addition, your amazing pass holder benefits, you'll get access to our exclusive Night Flight Expedition early special ride event. So it seems like
it would have to be in 2026.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. That they're really moving that.
That may also point to it may not be that like how themed out is it. Well, although they don't have to build a whole land, you're just talking about a single ride. They don't really do the themed lands necessarily, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like Disney and Universal do. So,
And there's really not like a lot going on with Dollywood where like they have like back-to-back projects. So like they could just focus on this where they would get it done much quicker.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's exciting, man. I do. I think I've heard a lot of rumblings that I think that'll be interesting about Epic is like what I think they're going to announce something sooner than people anticipate. It's like, what are they going to announce? Like, I think Dark Universe makes a lot of sense to expand first because it's so small. But as well, you got Wizarding World could use more stuff. Then you have Nintendo. Like, where do they double down? What do they announce? How much do they announce? I think that's kind of where I'm kind of out.
And also, too, with D23 coming out next year for Disney, Universal already knows and anticipates that there is a possibility Disney may announce some things, whether big or small.
Yeah.
But Universal doesn't like really plan on letting fans know that they're going to announce something. But internally, Universal kind of looks at that and says, okay, well, if Disney announces something, let's make sure that we get something out there as well.
Right.
So I would say, honestly, we could hear maybe something by the beginning of the new year.
I think a lot of people anticipate that it's just going to be like 2 or 3 years down the road. And I was like, I just don't think it's going to be that long. Because I don't really even know at this point how efficient these rides can get with the wait times without adding more things to the park. And they want more people in there. So it's like they almost have to expand it. And, if they want 40 to 50,000 people in that park, they're going to have to just add more stuff to it.
Yeah. And Universal is the kind of company that like, they don't care about like spacing it out. Like Disney's more strategic of saying, okay, let's announce this much from this time frame, and then we'll wait a little bit.
Right.
We'll announce it here. Universal, when they want to drop something, they just drop it. They don't.
And I feel like this decade, they're just like pedal down, just like go. Like we're just, they may build 4 rides at the same time. I mean, who knows?
They may. I mean, we may get a whole nother land in Epic. We may get whatever we're getting in Lost Continent. We may get whatever that's going to replace The Simpsons.
Yeah.
They're already building the kids park in Texas. We still need to know more about the UK park.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, there's a lot even on stake for Universal.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Universal came out and confirmed. They actually confirmed about that Lost Continent construction, but they said it was for an unknown future development if they decide to develop the land. I'm like, I don't believe you. Like, I don't think you're going to go through all this effort to level this area. Just be like, just in case, like maybe down the road. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm sorry. I think once we start seeing the walls go up and the cranes coming out, it's like, okay, yeah.
Well, has that ever happened before where a theme park has just leveled an area and then been like, we're not going to replace? I don't feel like that's something theme parks typically, that money and time you would spend. I mean, I guess if you, I just don't buy it.
Like unless they're waiting for like the proper attraction or IP for them to use, and they're just kind of leveling it out. But I would think that they would want to keep something open. And this is where I go back when I said, I feel like that they were going to utilize that Lost Continent space much sooner.
Yeah.
And that's why they closed down Sinbad and Poseidon's Fury. And when it didn't go their way, they're like, okay, we already closed it down, so we can't reopen it to then reclose it back down.
Right. Again. Yeah. Yeah. So and you had a whole big thing about, going away merchandise and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they're waiting until, I mean, they'll probably announce Rip Ride Rocket, what's replacing that, usually about a year before it opens. So maybe they say something around that same time as having this big barrage of stuff coming. Maybe. I don't know.
I think honestly would probably know something about that sooner or later before anything else, because technically they already know what's going there.
Oh yeah.
They leveled out the backstage area. They're dismantling the track. They know for a fact what's going there. It's just, but that's what makes me wonder that if it was just going to be a replicated, well, again, not like mirror to mirror replication of Fast and Furious, wouldn't they would just come out and just say that's what it is?
You'd think. Universal even did this with Epic Universe. Like when they were building it, the only one we knew for sure was Super Nintendo World. But you had the wand with the hand on the portal, and they hadn't officially announced that it's going to be Wizarding World. And you're like, what else is it going to be? Like, you can usually tell with Universal, like through permits or just how things are looking. And then but usually they wait. It's like a year before it opens, which I actually kind of like, because at that point, you got a lot of anticipation. You actually start planning a trip for something around that line.
Yeah.
And then, whereas Disney, I think a lot of times they announce stuff and then it takes 5+ years, and it's like you can't maintain that excitement level that long. You got that initial pop, and then you're just like, oh, you see what the construction's like. But yeah, Universal just likes to play the little coy game, which I'm okay with. Like, I like speculation. I think it's fun to talk about and see.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, I would rather. Here's the thing: I don't mind getting early concept art, but as long as if they were to say, you know what. And I'm speak about this with Disney, because Disney is notorious for doing this, is fans get married to what the concept art is. And it's like, this is just to give you an idea of what they envision, but this isn't going to be when it starts from A and ends with Z.
Right.
It's still going to look completely different.
Well, even Bruce Vaughn, I think, had made a statement about he was looking to change how they present concept art for that reason, like making it kind of more like even kind of saw that stuff with D20 or Destination D23 about a little bit. It looked like a watercolor painting on some level. Like you couldn't figure out details. I think that'd probably be a better way to go, because I still contend Villains Land's not going to look anything like that concept art they revealed.
Absolutely
not. No way. And yeah, I always tell people, like, don't dig into the details too much, because I mean they're just even in the early planning phases of that. So
yeah, I mean, because when you look at that piece of concept art, it does kind of give like that kind of mystifying, like watercolor kind of splurge, kind of like there's something that's like significant that you can kind of like pick out of what it is. But they even said it at Destination D23. They are in like the earliest of early concept. Like they're going on their field trips to different places.
They're doing show and tells off of ideas at this point. They're not. Yeah, they don't have anything concrete.
Yeah, pretty much. Like probably at the next D23, they're going to show us a picture or a little video clip of Villain Mist. You know, that's
probably. Or like, here's a coaster. Are you going to use it? Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
Like,
we'll see.
You guys like it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that ride system, that water ride system, they could wind up putting that in Villains.
That's true too. That is very true, because you can kind of combine where maybe you start out like in the air, kind of like Maleficent as the dragon, and then you go into the water like the underworld with Hades.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot on the horizon with both Disney and Universal, and we'll be here because that's what we do, to cover all the breaking news, and we definitely enjoy it. So
oh yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more on this stuff, and yeah, so it's always a great time. And Jared, I want to thank you so much for coming on and diving into all these different topics with me, because it's always a great time, like having people on such as yourself to kind of.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on. I love it. It's fun. It's always fun.
Yeah, because I love like theme parking and nerding out about like all the different stuff. And again, like how you said, like even if something is not solidified, set in stone, written off, but it's always cool to talk about like the possibilities and the what if.
Oh yeah, and then you can brag about if you were right or wrong or way off, or which you're never going to be all the time right, but I do find that fun.
Absolutely. But before we go, if you want to remind everybody where they could find you on social media.
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me on. It's always a great time. We didn't have any bidet talk this time, but we'll get Conductor back in here to ruin his night sometime. But yeah, you can find me at Captain Magic on YouTube, social media, all that stuff. And if you want more Universal Studios Orlando, Disney World content, in-park stuff, reviews and everything, you can check out CTM Podcast with my wife and I. And that's where you can find me. But been a great time, and I really appreciate you having me on. Always fun.
Absolutely. And also too, even though we didn't have a bidet talk, I mean, at least my viewers now know where you stand with carolers.
Yes, it's true. I have very strong stances on random things sometimes. I draw the line at carolers.
Yes. and actually, even so, Wayne Newton. So
listen, Wayne Newton had a show in Branson, and there were so many stories about how much of a dirtbag he was. I can't speak allegedly. I'm not going to speak ill of I think he passed away, but yeah, he had a show in Branson, Missouri for a while, and it was like a known thing about Wayne Newton was a bit of a dog, but that's just what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Well, in any case, everyone, thanks for joining us. Please comment down below your thoughts, questions, concerns, opinions, everything we talked about today. All I ask is just please keep it civil. We all enjoy this, so let's have a nice, decent conversation about it. And again, I'm George, the Disney Italiano. And as I always say in Disney Italiano fashion, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Disney. Italiano out.